What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, reviewing today Octopath Traveler. This has been my most hotly anticipated game of 2018 for months because I'm such an RPG fanatic. Final Fantasy is my favorite franchise of all time, so I was greatly looking forward to this, and at last I've completed it and I'm ready to dive in. I do want to start off by saying that this will not have any spoilers whatsoever. While I talk a little bit about the story, you won't see any major reveals. And also, I beat this game while away at a convention, so don't worry about seeing any of the later gameplay. I'm making it a point not to do anything that would overtly reveal some of the major skills and stuff you can do later on, because this game has some real cool surprises in it. But let's start off by talking about the plot, because for any role-playing game, this is probably the thing that can really make or break the experience. And this is actually the one thing that I think is a little bit weird when it comes to Octopath. So as the name implies, there are 8 different heroes that you can play as, and they're slowly unlocked one by one, but they are fully optional. You can only take a party of 2 if you'd like, go solo, or actually go around and find all 8 of these different heroes. Each one has their own different motivations, strengths, and weaknesses. Like an apothecary who's trying to cure the world's diseases, has a super powerful axe, and mix herbs to do super massive heals. That guy is very, very useful, especially if you team him up with somebody with like this hunter, who can capture different enemies like Pokemon and use them later on. Everybody's skills are made to be incredibly diverse because the foes you face are incredibly strong and love to try and one-shot you. The biggest thing in this game that makes it stand out is the combat, because while this looks on the surface to be your typical turn-based fighting, it is very, very different. If I had to explain this in a very short phrase, I'd say that the fighting in this game is slow but fast. What I mean by that is that each individual fight can be 5 to 10 minutes long just for a general skirmish, but when it's done, you can almost gain a level from every single major fight you get into. I like this system because it makes it where if you want, you can grind and level up very, very quickly, but just in the normal course of your journey, you normally get enough strength and just general powering up that you don't need to grind if you don't want to, especially because the story very slowly ramps up. It makes it where basically you start off in the very center of the map. It's here that you get all the different characters and kind of get introduced to this really deep, complex combat, and then after that, you slowly spiral outward, hitting more and more cities, fast traveling around and seeing more different kinds of environments, more awesome landmarks. And you also get to see more and more of these characters' general story. You're seeing more about why they're on their journey and seeing them accomplish their own little missions. I like this system because it makes it where, if you want, you can actually skip around and choose how you have this all unfold. If you want, you can just straight up beeline for one person's last boss as long as you take care of all the missions in a row. Or if you're like me, you'll go a little bit slower and really kind of enjoy things. Do side quests, soak up the world, and see the sights that are all about this incredibly gorgeous land. But let's go back to talking about fighting for a second, because this is what really is the most important aspect of any RPG, is making sure the fighting is fun. And this really, really is. Everything is built around a system called break. Essentially, every enemy has a series of shield, an amount of hits they can take without being too badly hurt. It basically makes it where they're extra strong. However, if you can shatter all of their shield, they will take additional damage and be stunned for an entire turn. Basically, this is your way of trying to make it where you have to fight strategically instead of just fast. You can't just use one character that has tons and tons of strength to one-shot all the foes. You have to try and plan out every single move to make it where they aren't able to hit you back, because there's a good chance that they're going to decimate your entire team. Let's just do a full match real quick to show you kind of what's going on. So these are just some general bad guys I've stumbled upon out in the wild. I've noticed that each one of these, I don't know their weakness yet. I realize that they're probably weak to something like fire or maybe bladed weapons, but until I actually hit them with it, there's no way of knowing what's going to really hurt them the most. So I started trying to whittle them down using a wide range of special attacks and things that would hit the entire party at once. That way I could try and figure out each person's weakness simultaneously. Once I managed to discern what is their true weakness, I need to utilize that, really focusing on it and burning them down. The quicker you get them stunned, the faster you can take them out. And with some of these foes, it is absolutely necessary that you focus fire them to make sure they don't end up consuming you really fast. Something else about this game is that I do enjoy the fact that they've kind of balanced this really interesting way of making it where random enemies are quite powerful. They're definitely something that you need to take seriously, but the bosses, on the other hand, are something else entirely. These things are monumental. They are so difficult, but that's so cool. A lot of times they do a lot of damage and they can hurt you really bad, but at the same time, they'll have tons of armor, and each one typically has something different and very special about them, like doing something along the lines of summoning minions and making it where the boss cannot be hurt at all until his minions are taken out, or this giant wolf. Now, this one was really tough because basically what his special is that every time you take out his shield, he's stunned for an entire turn and takes a bunch of extra damage, but at the end of that turn, he regrows all of his shield plus an extra 2 moves, making it where originally he had 7 strength, and then 9 strength, and then 11 strength. Each time he has more armor, making him even tougher to stun in succession. This is so cool because it makes it where you're constantly having this increasing challenge. If you want to take this guy out, you need to fight faster, harder, and smarter. You can't just try and brute force every single encounter in this game. And that's really what's the most charming about this, is that Octopath Traveler wants to be an RPG for RPG fans, making it where you have to try and think of every situation very outside the box. There is no fight in this entire game that is ever easy, even if you manage to way over level. That is so cool though. I do recommend though that you do a lot of the side quests, because I do think that it's just one of those games where there are a lot of very useful skills out there and a lot of very useful items, and going along to try and stop and talk to the random people on the sides of the road, if you help them out, this will give you extra cash to upgrade your weapons and armor, and a lot of times end up leading to fights that'll give you tons of skill points that way you can further customize to fight the way that you know is best for the upcoming encounters. Just for a random example, there was a time when I was walking along this little trail and a guy popped out and claimed that he was just a random person looking for donations. When I told him to buzz off, he basically made a veiled threat saying if I didn't pay him, he'd have some friends jump out of the bush and punch me in the face. This was highway robbery. So instead of standing up to that, I used my special move, which makes it where I can challenge anybody to a fight and beat him down, making it where the rest of that quest couldn't happen because I knocked the guy out. There would no longer be an ambush because I took out the person who had originally signaled it. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention, not only do each of these characters behave differently in combat, they actually have very unique skills that are usable outside of combat, just while exploring. Like, for example, the thief can actually pick pockets and steal quest items, or if you are a healer, you can actually make it where you can lead people to safety, making it where you can actually change the geography of a city in a small way. Or if you're somebody who's really charming, you can converse with a person and get extra information. Like, at one point, I talked to a guy in a bar and he told me that the innkeeper had recently lost his son to some sort of terrible disease. So when I went there, I was able to talk to the innkeeper, get some sympathy, and actually stay at that hotel completely free of charge. Every single one of these characters pushes the dynamic of gameplay in a different direction, both in battle and in the field. And for that reason, it kept me just wanting to see what could possibly happen next. It's one of those games that sort of makes it where I'm always a little bit lost. I'm very curious as to what could be coming over the next horizon, because every single next major quest event manages to try and change the dynamics of battle or unlock some sort of new class system and further change how the gameplay will happen. The last thing I want to broach on here is something that I kind of enjoyed and also kind of got annoyed with towards the end of this game, because this is a very, very long experience. In order to get the true secret ending is probably about between 90 and 100 hours in order to tick off all the boxes that will unlock the true final fight. And during that time, I actually really liked the art and graphics a ton, but I definitely thought that this weird blurriness was a bit too much. When there's lots of different layering or you're indoors, it definitely seems like they tried to lay on the cool multi-layered graphics a little bit too heavy, and it just seemed like it made the screen ever so slightly clustered during some of the really beautiful moments. It's not really a giant criticism, it's just the one thing that stuck out to me after many hours of playing it, that I kind of wished that I could turn off the blur effects. But really, that's kind of my only gripe. This is a masterpiece. It's not quite up to the caliber of Final Fantasy, but it makes me really kind of excited for maybe getting another Octopath Traveler very soon that will follow in the footsteps of this amazing first game. Okay, so we've heard a lot of good and a little bit of bad, but let's over to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Octopath Traveler a 9.5 out of 10. We've gotten a lot of games on the Nintendo Switch this year that were either ports or interesting, but nothing that really stood out the way this game has. At least that's my personal opinion. I think we finally have our first truly must-buy game of 2018. If you got a Switch, you need to pick this up. You will love every single second of it, every single part of unlocking every skill until the very conclusion. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Alright, I gotta go grind more. I'm trying to hit max level, and that's gonna take a lot of hours. Oh, hey! I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad, and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.